All right, I thought I'd record a video that give you all some inspiration on what you could do to add some customizable families to your list. And I know some of you are probably trying to think of something you can do for that student choice family file that you're creating. So hopefully this will give you some ideas. So one of the things that we came across while we were starting to build the Craftsman style is this front door. There is no option in Revit for a front door with a single side light. So I'm going to address that issue. And I'm going to start off by opening the existing exterior door with two side lights. I'm going to try to locate that drawing and see if we have something that I can work with. And I'm not seeing anything in here that shows the door with the two side lights, but I do know that in one of the default drawings, so I'm going to open up a new file project and browse for the default residential template. And I believe in here, when this opens, there is a door type that is a residential single raised panel with side lights door that I was looking for. So first of all, how can we get that into our family files? It's kind of inconvenient for it to be only located in this template file. So I'm going to grab the family file and export it. So I can do that by placing the family first in the drawing. So I've got to create a wall for the door to be into. And then I can go into the door, and I'm just going to place one of those doors in here, but then I'm going to use that to open up the family file. So select a door and hit Edit Family. And we're now in the family file, and it has all of the types. Okay. So I want to, first of all, save this door with two side lights in my family folder so I can use it in other projects by just grabbing it. So let's do a Save As family, and we're going to put it into a families folder. You would have a families folder with all your doors and windows and whatnot in it. I think I've got one for myself for when I'm working on consulting jobs, but the same family folder that I had you set up that looks very similar to the Imperial folder. And actually, if you're on a computer at home and you'd like to just store it there, that is a convenient place to put it. So let's put it there because it is one of the original doors by Revit. So now we should be able to get to that residential door in our normal list of family files in Revit. So now I want to go through the process of turning this into being able to be a single side light that can be flipped. So I'm going to do a Save As again, and might as well keep it in the same door family on your home computer. You wouldn't be able to do this at school, but we can do it with at your home computer. So I'm going to change this with single side light. And that way I can start to edit this family and make it a single side light that flips. So I'm going to bring this view over here because I think it's easier for me to see the views over here and then the properties over there on this side. And we're going to switch this to a front elevation. And the first thing you need to do is investigate how the family has been developed, which means that you've got to go through all the views and see where all of these kinds of dimensions are. So this seems really complicated, but what I'm seeing here is that the side lights themselves are being controlled by these equals to set the styles equal spaced within the opening. When I click on the side lights, they're selecting at the same time, which I think is a good sign because that means I can edit those and make it a single side light instead. And then when I select the trim, it's also selecting at the same time, so I can edit that all as one piece and turn it into just one side instead. The other pieces that we're seeing here, I believe, are controlling where the chevron is here. That's showing where that door hinge is going to be. And it's locating the center of the door. And then we have some dimensions that are controlling the styles of the door and the rails, and the styles of the door. We have style widths and rail widths that have been controlled through parameters. So let's take a look at the top view. And we can see that a width dimension is showing up in the top view to control the width of the door, and it's going to the control reference plane that has no name on one side and no name on the other. So sometimes too you want to look at those reference planes and you want to take a look to see what kind of reference is it, and then whether or not it defines the origin. So let's look at the middle one, and that one doesn't have a name, but it is considered, it's referencing the center left right of the door, and it defines the origin of the door. So that's an important reference plane right there that we have to make sure that we keep track of, because that's also going to be the reference plane that gets used to dimension the door to the center. So while we make this a new door with only side light on one side or the other, we want to make sure that the center of the door itself does it need to be centered on the entire opening, or does it need to remain centered on the door? And so that's going to be an important distinction that we have to make. So those are the things that you're going to have to look at when you're starting to edit an existing family. You've got to look to see how it was built to begin with and get a sense of how you're going to fix it going forward. So let's look at the back view and see if there are any dimensions on that one. So the back view looks like it has the same dimensions that we had on the front, but it's set to a shaded view. We have the left view. We just have trim projection. And the right side view, I bet we just have trim projection. Okay, so this gives me a sense of what I've got to fix. So let's go back to the front view, and I'm going to start to edit some of the things that I want to get rid of. And the other thing we need to look for while we're here is the actual door opening. And there it is. So you can see how I can have a cut opening. What I have to do is edit that so that it's going to wrap around just the door and one side light after I start editing the side lights. So let's begin by editing the trim, because it seems easy enough to do that. So we'll hit Edit, Extrusion, and I'm going to trim together that edge there and get rid of the rest of this side. And I want to see what that does when I do that. So we hit the green check box, and that leaves us with just the side light now to edit. So far so good. Grab the side lights. I'm going to edit those. And I just basically want to erase the side lights on that side. And then hit the green check box. And so that leaves us with the trim and the side lights on the front side. Now I've got to repeat that process on the back. So I'm going to go to the back, and I can, now the opposite side is what I've got to edit. So I'm going to select the trim on this side and hit Edit Extrusion and trim together those two pieces there, and then erase the rest of that trim. And then I've got to select the side lights on this side. It's going to let me. That's the glazing. Oh, that might just be all it is the glazing. So I want to select the glazing on that side, and it doesn't appear to be connected to this. So we're just going to delete that glazing on that side. And then I do want to select these objects and edit the extrusion and just get rid of the mullions, if you will, for the side lights on that side. So that gave us everything we needed to turn this into a door with single side light. But the opening is still too large. So I've got to get rid of this side light reference plane. And then I've got to edit the door opening. So I'm going to hit the tab key until I get the door opening. And once I have the door opening, I can edit the sketch, and I want to associate it with the correct reference plane now. So that reference plane isn't there right now because it should be referencing to the inside of the trim, and I don't have that on the side. So I'm going to get out for now, and I'm going to add a new reference plane. Oh, actually, it might be right there. Just needs to be extended. I just noticed that. So let's see what kind of reference plane that is. So what kind of reference plane is it? It just says left. So that should work. And it looks like it's locking that trim dimension here. I just want to see if that dimension is locked. It's not locked. So that may be something we have to lock afterwards. We'll find out. All right, so now we're ready to select the opening and edit the sketch. And I want to align this edge of the opening with that reference plane and lock it. Now we want to see how the door is going to behave because we made these changes. Nothing barked at us so far. It seemed like it went pretty smoothly, but we've got to check to see if it actually will work with our new setup. So if we're going to go into the family types and start to flex the model by changing one of these sizes. So I'm going to change this to 36 by, well, let's do 30 by 84. And look to see if everything is behaving. All right, so we'll go to the 3D view to really see this from all angles. And I'm going to turn on the wall that the door is supposed to be resting in. So we can do that by typing in VV and turning on the wall. There we go. So let's flex that model some more. Seems to be working all right. I'm going to change this to a different height. And I don't see anything going wrong with it. So this has worked really smoothly. Now what I want to be able to do in a top view is be able to flip the whole door, not just the door itself. This is just for the door, but the entire model. But let's find out how this is behaving first. So I'm going to save this and load it into the project. So let's load it into that project 3 that was just a blank project with a wall. And then we'll put it into the wall. So here are some of the things too. This is why it's so important to test your model before you believe that it's finished, by checking to see how it will actually behave in the Revit file. And you can see that we have some leftover lines over here that we want to get rid of that I think are showing up there as detail lines in our top view only that we're going to want to turn off. So what I want to do first though is see how this is going to flip. And I like the way this is flipping because it's maintaining the door center position and it's just flipping the side light from one side to the other, which is exactly how I want it to behave. So that means I'm going to leave where the what do we call it here? The reference plane that identifies the origin. I want to leave it right where it is. And then to get rid of all that, all those reference lines that we had in the top view, I don't want to see any of those reference lines showing up anymore. on the side light that doesn't exist. So I want to erase those symbolic lines. So we can do that a lot more easily by just grabbing the lines in that area, hitting filter, and it shows you what lines you're going to be erasing. So I don't want to erase reference planes. I want to erase lines. So I want to turn off the reference planes and then hit delete. So let's see if that makes some improvements on the way that the door appears in my Revit file. I'll override the existing view, and that's how we probably want it to look. Although we may want to put that one line back again that shows the trim. So you would just go back in and add that one reference line back into the top view. So we'll go back to the ground floor and go into annotate and add a symbolic line from here to here. And make sure that that symbolic line is set to the correct line type, probably a door cut, so that it shows up as a thick line. And let's hit save and load it into the project. Overwrite the existing version. And now we have a good representation of a exterior door with a single side light. And we look at that in the 3D view. It's exactly what we want to see. And if we wanted to now load that into our Craftsman project, let's close this. So I want to load this now into the Craftsman project. Whoops. Oh, it's already loading into that project. And then I can swap out that door. So I'm going to go to the 3D section and get rid of the side light because that's its own independent thing. Grab that door and swap it out for the door with single side light right there, 36 by 80. And if the side light's going in the wrong direction, we can go to the floor view. And just flip it. And then it puts the side light in the correct position. Go back to that 3D view. And now it's a single door that we have one rough opening for, essentially. So that's an example of how we can take an existing family and turn it into our own. Some of them are going to be more complicated than that, but that one was a pretty straightforward one to figure out how to solve.